All right, for the very latest on all of this, let's bring in Texas Republican Congressman Chip Roy, who serves on the House Budget Committee. So the meeting with the House Republican Conference is still going on. I assume you were there for a time. What's going on inside, and are we going to see a deal? Are we going to see a vote? Are we going to see a government shutdown? I mean, all options on the table? I don't know.
Hey, John. Hey, Shannon. Great to be on. And yeah, the meeting is still underway as we speak, and we're having a good conversation. And look, President Trump is absolutely right. We need to deal with the debt ceiling. We need to get it off the table so that he can proceed to do what he needs to do without Chuck Schumer rattling the markets with threats of default. That's what Chuck Schumer has said publicly and to people in the Senate he wants to do. So President Trump is right. The question is how we get there. The first bill that was negotiated obviously was a non-starter. Once the American people saw everything that was in, 1,550 pages. So we've moved the needle forward to a better bill, but it was a bill, and you asked, why did I oppose the bill last night? 38 Republicans opposed it, was because it came with 2-year extension of the debt ceiling, which would be about $5 trillion lift in our credit card without any structural spending reforms. So our position is, Mr. President, we want to deliver for you on a debt ceiling increase to get it out of the way. Chuck Schumer can't, abuse it, but we need spending restraint. So what we've been doing for 48 hours is meeting with the vice president, meeting with a lot of folks in his incoming administration. I think we've got the outlines of something that would work, but we're still discussing it as we speak. I think we can get something done that will make everybody happy. We're working hard to do it.
Okay, we'll talk about the outlines in just a second, but let me come back to this idea of the debt ceiling and voting against the proposal that President Trump was proposing and was getting behind. He was supporting it because he's now taking aim at you, saying that you, Chip Roy, are getting in the way of what he wants done, and he's encouraging Republicans in Texas to primary you. I mean, you've really poked the bear here.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, my job is to honor God, my family, the Constitution, and my voters, the voters who sent me here. That is what drives me. But I am working tirelessly to get what the president wants. I think the president knows that. At the end of the day, look, politics are politics. Rick Perry called President Trump a cancer and then ended up in his cabinet. I'm not worried about politics. I'm worried about the American people. I'm worried about inflation. I'm worried about a $5 trillion debt ceiling increase with no spending cuts. The president is rightly motivated to block Chuck Schumer's abuse, but we Republicans here in Congress, in the House, have an obligation to get it done correctly. That's what we're working to try to do on behalf of the president and our constituents and our obligations under the Constitution.
All right, so let's look behind the curtain, if we could, just a little bit, because our Aisha Husney tells us that there's a couple of options being talked about right now. One is a CR that will be coupled with disaster aid and farm aid. It would be effective through March. It would be the vote would be on a suspension of the rules, which limits debate, no amendments. Or option number 2 is a CR, disaster aid, and farm aid as separate bills in separate votes. Which way do you think it's going to go?
Well, that is what is being debated as we speak, and I don't want to get in front of the speaker or my colleagues making news here or violate confidences of a private meeting, but everything hinges on getting comfortable with the outlines and the contours of spending restraint next year in reconciliation as part of the agreement on how much we can lift the debt ceiling. I think we're getting comfortable with that outline as we speak, and then if so, one of two things will happen. Either the package last night without the debt ceiling attached to it will move forward because the president is comfortable that we're going to be able to get that done in January, or there might be some standalone votes on a continuing resolution plus the farm bill extension of 1 year, a separate vote on the disaster package, and a separate vote on the farm aid package. But that would be all contingent also on where the president comes down on recognition that we're going to be able to deliver in January, if we can all agree, as we're discussing it right now, on something that would make sure that mandatory spending restraint, that when I say mandatory spending, what I'm talking about is this stuff in a reconciliation package under law we're allowed to touch, which, by the way, is a lot of things. Medicaid, food stamps. People don't know that, right? Like SNAP and food stamps are all under that account.
Yeah, well, there's no question that President Trump wants to see a suspension of the debt ceiling, at least through 2029, if not beyond. Let me ask you this question, if I could, Congressman, because 2 weeks from today, y'all are going to be back on Capitol Hill voting for Speaker of the House. What are you thinking about Mike Johnson right now?
Now, look, I mean, that's inside the Beltway Palace intrigue. Mike is a good friend. He's been working through this. Obviously, this has been a rough couple of weeks. We'll figure all that stuff out. Right now, we need to get this package done. We need to figure this out for the American people, and we need to deliver. And then we'll be able to figure out in the next 2 weeks what we're going to do in January. I don't like getting into all of that stuff. All I want to do is deliver. We need to make sure that we can get the debt ceiling done for the president so he can do what he needs to do. We need to adopt spending restraint, and we need to then figure out what we need to do to fund government in the constraints of what I just described.
Well, whether it's John Boehner or Kevin McCarthy or Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House of the Republican side certainly does seem to have a difficult time wrangling the conference. Congressman, thanks very much. We'll let you get back into the meeting, and we hope to have some sort of result later on today.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.